think that the balloon which was sent off from Paris on the day of the consecration and which arrived so fortunately at Rome should be carefully kept in memory of this extraordinary event. I desire that your holiness should have it put in some special spot where strangers can behold it, and that an inscription should state in how many hours it reached Rome. After the fireworks, Her Majesties held a reception. Then they passed into the gallery of the Holy Ghost, where there was a concert. The principal piece was a scenic cantata, Trasible. The words by Monsieur Bonnier, head clerk of the Minister of the Interior. The music by Berton. Trasible was the emperor. Then a ball opened by the princes and princesses dancing with the ladies and young people. The city then gaming. Actually, there was no real gaming, but some purses of counters were thrown at the tables prepared for their majesties to commemorate the festival. Then there was supper and departure and procession at 9 o'clock. It had cost the city 1 million. Oh my goodness. 1,746 francs. But to entertain a sovereign is a costly matter. And then there was a festival given by the generals in the hall of the Cirque Olympique, for which every general division had to contribute 3,000 francs and every general brigade 1,500 francs, and of which the repast provided by Paris cost 60,000 francs. There was a feast given by the marshals of the empire in the hall of the opera, decorated with silver gauze and garlands of flowers. A delightful entertainment costing a trifle of 180,000 francs. There was a feast given to the empress by the legislative body with the unveiling of the statue of Napoleon. Then every day there was an audience from the throne with the appearance of the court in full dress, an audience to the archbishops and bishops, an audience to the presidents of the electoral colleges and the colleges of the district, and to the prefects, an audience to the presidents of the councils of departments, to the underprefects, the mayors of the good towns, the presidents of the cantons, an audience to the deputations from the army, an audience to the Council of Italy, an audience to the Imperial Institute. The emperor never tired of ceremonies, the days on which he did not hold grand audiences or be entertained at festivals or spent in hunting with the foreign princes. This reached a climax in the solemn session of the Senate when the emperor accepted the crown of Italy and showered principalities around him, and in the memorable festival of Saint Cloud, when the second son of Louis and Hortense was christened, amid all the niceties of monarchical etiquette. Back then it was the 3rd of Germinal, March 24th, 1805. Chapter 8. The price of the coronation. The Pope had now been at Paris nearly 4 months, and amid the bustle of festivals at which he hardly appeared and had nothing to do, he visited the churches and gave audiences to the faithful and even to the curious. He was affable, even easygoing. Like a traveler, he visited the sites of Bois de Boulogne, the Invalides, the Sèvres manufactory, the Mint for Metals, the Gobelins, the Hotel Dieu, the Frigny Metal Manufactory, the Imperial Library, the School of Mines, the Imperial Press, the Hotel de Monet, the School of Arts and Crafts, the Institution for Deaf Mutes, and the Cannes Blind Asylum. At each visit, there was an address of blessing, a display printing of books such as the Lord's Prayer in 150 languages, striking of metals, practice demonstrations, experiments, and so forth. These could interest, amuse, and instruct him, but was it for this that he had come to Paris? Was it for this that he had delayed? It has been said that the emperor employed every means to retain him, and that he wished to inspire him with the idea of remaining at Paris, or at least of dividing his life between that city and Rome. Certainly the notion may have then suggested itself to Napoleon. He may have tried the ground by means of an insinuation made through one of his confidants to an officer of the Pope. It cannot be gainsaid that this was one of his schemes for the future. It is useless to discuss whether such a plan did not take shape in his mind, as his continually increasing fortune raised him to the pinnacle of fame and caused him to lose his sense of the reality of things. But at this moment, if the suggestion was very cautiously made on receiving a rebuff, he pressed the matter no further. In fact, he would have asked for nothing better than to see the Pope depart. It was a labor to arrange every day his visits, organize excursions, regulate his audiences, draw up addresses, and pay the proper compliments to the Pope. His stay was embarrassing, very costly. There was the hire of furnished houses for the Pope's train, furnishing, washing, heating, lighting, and food, which came to $1 million at least. Besides, Napoleon was divided between the fear that enough should not be done, that the honors paid were not sufficient for the loftiness of the papal dignity, and the apprehension of doing too much, of an increase of ultramontanism resulting from the Pope's journey, and of Pius VII becoming so popular that he, the emperor, should find himself thrown into the shade. He went so far as even to forget the deference he should have shown to the Pope as his guest. He placed him in the third place at the banquet of the 14th of February. He took precedence of him on every occasion. He overwhelmed him with humiliation, said Consalvi, whose hatred urged him to exaggerate everything. Was not this done with the intention of forcing Pius VII to return to Rome? His departure would have settled everything for a present, since he had come and given in on almost every point about the ceremony. Since he had officiated at the blessing, consecration, and enthronement, it would be necessary to pay him. This was why the emperor wished for the departure of the Pope, and why the Pope was unwilling to depart. Doubtless magnificent presents were prepared for him, and efforts were made, apparently, to satisfy his wishes. It appears that he had expressed a wish for the carpet from the Savonnerie carpet manufactory for his drawing room. Two were offered to him, one at 25 feet, the other of 12 feet. These cost 30,000 francs. He praised the Gobelin tapestries. 8 pieces were chosen out for him with subjects from the New Testament, costing 80,000 francs. The Empress would have given him a rochet, which she had already sent him one by Tascher. Its place would be taken by 2 candelabra, which he had noticed at Sevres. The price, 24,000 francs. To these last were added some vases, a tea set, and a service costing 12,000 francs. The communion plate, which together with a papal tiara was to be the principal gift, was of a very different kind. The altar slab was to be of solid lapis lazuli covered with beads of silver gilt. In the middle, a bas relief was let in of gilded silver 9 feet long and 3 feet high, representing the Nativity, and containing 18 salient figures, designed by Lebrun and executed by Cousteau. This was a happy idea proposed by Monsieur Auguste, a goldsmith related to Cousteau's family. At the time of the sale, he had bought this bas-relief, which had been given by Louis XIV to the professed house of the Jesuits, some apostles executed by Castelier, and a Christ, the work of Roland, were added to it. As to the chalice, the paten, the oil vessels, and the chased gold platter, executed in the most modern style, they were to be adorned with 24 cameos of the 15th century, on which were cut the scenes of the Passion, and with a later cameo, the head of Jesus Christ. The whole gift would not cost 240,000 francs, and the vast relief and cameos, if it had been necessary to make them, would have cost more than the entire communion plate. Fleuriot, the surveyor general, was delighted. No ornament comparable to the communion plate is to be seen, he wrote, in Italy or elsewhere. The public were admitted to inspect the models, which were displayed in the Napoleon Museum, and which had been strongly approved of by Talleyrand, Visconti, and Dauterive. Fesch then came forward and said that they were very ugly and altogether unsuitable. This he told to the emperor. Napoleon became uneasy, wished to examine into the matter himself, and went to see the plate at the beginning of Germinal. He consulted Denon, who was already at strife with Fleuriot on several other points, and whom they had endeavored to keep out of the affair. Denon answered, "A present such as your majesty is making to the Pope at so considerable an expense is destined for a country where things of this kind are fully appreciated, and where it will be exhibited and looked at with curiosity and interest. It will become a sort of monument to which your name, sire, will be attached for 1,000 years. I'm far from seeking to criticize what others have recommended to you, but I consider it my duty, sire, on account of the office that you have given me, and the confidence which your majesty has had the goodness to repose in me, to say plainly that this present, regarded as a whole, is made up of incongruous parts, that the front of the altar slab, so very good itself, is not in keeping with the style of chandeliers, which are poor and heavy, that the chalice and the oil vessels are again of third style, and that none of these has the characteristics of either grandeur or good taste. The oracle having spoken, the emperor now became very doubtful about his communion plate. He thought at least that he would make up for it with the tiara. The design submitted by Auguste was valued at 179,800 francs on a central structure of white velvet were to ascend to 3 crowns of gold, each consisting of a large hoop surmounted with flowerwork of wrought leaves, enriched with rubies, emeralds, and sapphires, and surrounded with brilliants on a set of matched and chosen pearls. The middle of the hoop of each crown was to be taken up with bas-relief wrought in gold, representing the reestablishment of worship, the concordat, and the consecration. In this work, 3,345 precious stones and 2,990 pearls were employed, but a tactless notion was entertained of completing this masterpiece by placing it on its summit, the emerald which Pius VI had to remove from his tiara and hand over to the French in order to pay the contributions of Tolentino. This emerald had since been preserved in the Museum of Natural History and was taken thence for the present purpose.